On the 14th day of Antiochus' teaching in Rome, he was approached by a young boy who had long scars on his face and neck. Like serpents intertwined, they held him. They stroked his face and chin. Like a mother, they comforted him. Yet his voice was low and dark, like the earth, a grating sound. And all the men grew silent, though they were learned and knew many philosophies, and knew of that which is not what it is, and of the aethers and the elements. And let the boy speak, regardless of his clothes, which were torn, to show him their generous spirits. All these questions you ask, the child began, are only comments. They dance around the problem. With fine words and delicate manners they approach you. But you circle your real desire, arms locked at your sides, as children circle in our games, hands over eyes in giddy enjoyment. You do not wish to find that which is obscured. You wish to not find it. At this, Antiochus closed his eyes and rolled back his head, as if looking upon something both high and within, and withdrew his arms into his cloak. Cassius, the doctor, who tended to those with sores and lesions and poured into their wounds foul salts, grew angry and replied with a harsh voice, "We seek truth, only that we seek, and we spend our lives in searching. With words we reveal that which is covered. We root out that which is false, those whose falseness is discovered in the contradictions of their language. There are none here who avoid truth. We are honest men all. All that we wish to ask, we have asked." And some of the men muttered and nodded, but many more rested their eyes on the boy, on his scars, on his deformity, and they were uneasy. And the child spoke, "Then why has no one asked the question? Why has no one said the words that we all long to hear? Why have I not heard those words on your lips that you whisper in your sleep, when you are restless and your heart cannot stop pounding inside your chest to be set free of its relentless tasks, of the prison that is your life, of which you enslave all the parts of your body?" Cassius began to sweat and was angry and said, "You are only a crippled child. What question could you ask that I could not?" And Antiochus spoke. His voice was a cold breeze and quickly silenced the assembly. And they pressed their hands to their stomachs and quickly drew their robes around them and shuddered, as if they knew not where they were or where they were going, and were lost on a foreign road with no stars to guide them, all stars dead in the ground. "He wants to know," Antiochus said, "what happens when we die." And he said then, "The universe is dark around us, a mass of stars and air, but as thick as the wood of the trees, and it is into it that we go when our bodies are killed. When we are only killed killed by time and killed by life. I promise you this, that there is no such thing as a natural death, and being born is a sentence of death, and giving birth is an act of murder. Every one of you have murdered your sons, you have murdered all of them, and that is what being human means. And it is the physical shock of this, being born as what you are, the unbearable trauma that forces the soul from its shell, as a man who clings desperately to the edge of a cliff may be made to release his hands by a fierce wind. There have been many that have said that death is like a deep sleep, but it is not peaceful and it is not restful, and the ones that have told you this seek only to make themselves feel better about what life is. But I do not care for your feelings, because your feelings are meaningless, completely and utterly meaningless, weightless. Death is a great horror. Immediately upon leaving the body, the deceased human being becomes the sole spectator of a marvelous panorama of hallucinatory visions. All things became the cloudless sky, and a mountain of clearest glass opens up from the blackness and punctuates the air above it with its fingers, and causes pure death to rain towards him. And there are no words to describe what it is truly like. You cannot know it. It is as if God himself has bled out into the ground, and everywhere is the stain of it. We are soaked in it, and it all smells of copper. But this is false. It is a specter. It is a phantom. Anguish of a writhing spirit, reflected against the purest backdrop of nothingness. Because Oh, the death of a god, the pain of his blood, that would give meaning. But there is no God in death. We do not see him, you will not find him. God is deathless. What use does God have for death, that Father of all things? What use has he for a broken toy? What use has he for the shattered vase, the broken vessel? What use has God for death? And what use has God for the dead? When you die, you pass out of God's realm and pass from his sight. And the Spirit says, cocooned in the glass mountain, wrapped in those beautiful unlights, until whispered into his ear, those cold, nothing words shudder downwards in a spiral. And, like earth spinning into water, broken apart into pieces unlimited in number, their very force causes deep lines of fracture to appear in the very face of the mountain. Those awe sounds and radiances first pitch upwards, rising screams and calls, and then finally cease altogether. The silence echoing everywhere, lingering in space and through every time, and the visions of the after-death stop, and in one clean, perfect moment of absolute impenetrable nothingness, everything simply stops. But in grief we do not claw our chests, we do not tear our clothes, we do not gnash our teeth. For though it lasts as long as it possibly can, there is no suffering, and there is no lack of suffering. No joy, no lack of joy. There is no cause and no cause of causes. God, the great pitier, is not present to keep the tally or to write your name. There is no death, because there is no life. This is the question, and this is the answer. We are all trapped together, we are all piled together, with no order, just a pile of limbs and faces and legs and fingers. And you may cry out, please, please, please release me. Please let me breathe. Please let me stand. But there will never be any reply, as there was never any cry to reply to. Once you have the answer, your life is over. All of you here, if you have heard my voice then, your life is over. Your life is over because you sought truth and now you have it. Death is truth, and truth is death. When they came to put their hands upon him, even then they were slow, their movements strange and angled, as if they were guilty and felt it. Though they professed to be angered and quick to dismiss, their movements betrayed their belief, and their fears were revealed. There are undeniable truths in the faces of those who would destroy you, and everything you know, and are not a simple death, but a death that rings out, that echoes everywhere in the world until the sound is exterminated by inertia. A death to fully end you, to erase you. This was the death they wanted for him, and this was the death and the honor they gave him. That morning was a cold one. We all rubbed our arms for warmth, gathered to watch in the frost. There was almost never frost, so rare, and then there we were on that day. And the frost came, the most perfect of signs, the most subtle of acknowledgments. Because we know this was it. We are not a religion of resurrections, Antiochus said. We are not believers in second chances. The square was an empty place. There were no distractions. The Romans read the proclamation, but we barely heard it. Those words meant less than nothing, and it was as if they were speaking in a foreign tongue. And didn't we already feel so separate? Didn't we already feel so different and apart? Our tongue was the foreign tongue, and we had lost all hope of understanding, now and forever. They tied his arms with force, jerking the ropes back with malice and a snapping sound. I'm sure they wanted to break his arms, but Antiochus never said a thing, never begged or pleaded, never opened his eyes a single inch. His face had the look of someone in the most intense of happiness, the strongest of ecstasies. He was very happy. How like Christ. We wanted a last sermon. We wanted to be taught one final thing, because it had not been enough. We were not better beings, not better people. We had not seen what he had seen and felt less for it. We wanted a final word. We wanted him to say anything to us, anything meant for us. We didn't want it to be over with everything left. We didn't say what we had wanted to say, but Antiochus said nothing. Not even when his chest was on fire and skin peeling, because he had told us everything, shown us everything, and there was nothing special about what he saw. Because don't all of us see it? Every day, every year, all of us see it, all the time. And we don't need to know anything special about it. We don't need to learn anything new about it, because we already know all of it. This was all there was. And when they put torch to tinder, I was smiling, grinning wide. The fire started with an aching swiftness. It didn't hesitate for even a moment. How honorable. It just went about its business. I was so proud then when the fire ate away his skin and melted his bones. But they say the smoke filled his lungs, and he was dead long before that. But I can only laugh because they don't know the half of it. Many of us were crying, but they were fools and hadn't understood a single thing that had happened. It is not sadness that those people feel, it is desperation. It is fear and withering cold. That is the smoke that rings you, that is the fog that hides you, and that you curl around your shoulders, like a blanket in the nighttime. It is the air you breathe, and you cannot move away from it, because there is no away from it. No away at all. God knew this. He knew this, and he put you here. He created and he destroys. Creates the one things that exist, and destroys the things that never did. Undoes those that might have been but never were. Holds their heads under the water. His reasons always uncertain, but his certainty everywhere. Slowly compressing all space until our legs and face and chest and knees and hands are broken and touching and folded onto ourselves. All things that are made are thus limited. They are only what they are, and no more. Nothing can be built or born, only reproduced, only dumbly copied. But now I remember a story he told us about this very thing. In the days before the holiest murdered one, before there was a history to think of, before there was a past or present, all the people were of God and he of them. And God spoke to every man and woman, and he answered them in their prayers. There was a time when God answered prayers, when we didn't have to search for him and think of reasons to explain away his absence, and spoke to them in their dreams, and there was nothing but his will. Every action and reaction were his and his alone. Every breath of wind and mote of dust, there was only God in the world. And each man was a piece of this, with no existence in and of themselves, but only as a part of the God will, fragments of the greatest whole, the absolute. And into this world was born a single man, with a sense of self, a feeling of otherness, the first modern man. Not the same, somehow apart from everything and everyone, like a man standing in front of a painting. And everywhere he carried this feeling in him, always in his gut, pressing in on his forehead. He was bitter in happiness and angered at peace. For it was never of him, and he was never of it, never his. Everything was separate, and he couldn't feel anything, and his soul was untouched, because it did not exist. And to no part of the spirit did he owe any allegiance. He was all stomach and heart and gut. His eyes saw only earth and sky and shit and vomit, things as they were, and it made him doomed and ecstatic, miserable and bitter and cunning and euphoric. And he was the first human, the only human. And some others called him Satan, but that could not have been his name, because he had not even that much angel in him. We all bear his name today, our human race, because he was the first, and we are all his brothers and children and wives. We are his only family, because those who bore him failed him, as only your family can fail you. But now we are his family, his family, his family. And so it was that it was he who convinced them, and so it was us who convinced them, you and I, to build a set of stairs onto the highest point, where the sky and stars meet in the darkest of the upper spheres, the deep black shore of the sky's ocean. And it was he who was the first hunter, the first to kill for food, the first to feel the need to seek, to find and track and kill, to end things, to begin things. Was this not just like God? Just what God would have done and had done? This was how beginnings and endings entered the world. No longer incorporeal things left up to chance, but now made physical, with arms and legs and limbs of uncaring economy. Through arrowhead and sharpened stone, through a gap in the flesh where time and nothingness and death and ending fell out and splashed their redness everywhere, blood pouring into the river, where he washed their skins and cleaned his hands and face and washed the smell of it right off of himself. Blood flowed there and made its way into the salt blue ocean waves and tides, and fish would drink that blood, gathered up in schools and drunk with the headiness of lifetimes on land. Diffused with salt and saline, so light now, so small that none could taste its coppery stinging, but all were drinking, all were eating, all had blood inside them which was not their blood, had stolen the blood of another, bloody and not wholly themselves any longer, and never would be again, now part something else. Blood brothers they would never see, that were already dead. But no one cared and no one complained. In fact, they felt better. They felt full. Men and women are creatures of appetites, and they traded their love for a full belly, very, very long ago. And they felt filled with it and alive, both dead and alive. And in the nights they whispered, laying close in the frost and the dark, pressing into one another to feel the beating heart of another person, someone outside themselves, as living proof they were not the last one. They were not the very last one, because when dark is everywhere, all our confidences are forgotten, and man is only a child again, without stick or blade or bludgeon, and the world is as it once was, wholly a place of the animals, where all churches are built to honor the tooth and claw, and all of human intelligence is worth exactly nothing, a place of pounding hearts and desperate running and crashing through fallen tree limbs. An unknowable chaos of wilderness where beasts chant out unto the frozen night times, who will kill and who will eat and who will die, a perfect even chorus. Not a note out of place. In those nights the people whispered, the hunter does us all a great service, and we have done so much to deserve it. With axe and arrow, fire and stone, he opens up the world for us, has fed us well, so brave and strong, cunning, wise, the best of all of us, because he dreams of how it shall be, and so it becomes. He sees a better life, and they respected him. The respect we save for violent men who have always been our leaders, and always will be. Those we condemn when they act, exactly as we've always wished we could act. Those who live with their hearts and their mouths and hands, the men we worship, when what we really worship is death, and those who can bring it to us because we long for it. We long for it. And this was how he convinced them to bend their backs, and angle their knees, and put hands on earth, and arches in their necks. Muscles tensed, skin damp and sweating, pushing weight onto weight, holding themselves up to make a solid height and a stable base, as good as stone and as strong. He used their trust. They gave him faith. Freely they had traded. And he shook his bow and flashed his eyes. He told them of the life they gained, his to give, the only separate one, the only different one, who stood apart and felt nothing of life and nothing for it. And all those men, all those women gave of their bodies everything there was, every inch and every sinew, and made themselves just things, not people but steps, not women but steps, not men but steps, steps for his feet, every human back, every human neck. But still it wasn't enough. We must go farther, the hunter said. I hunt the darkest game. He cowers in the shadows of the black-blue sky, and still I feel this gap in me. The space between the world and my soul, a nothing space. I feel it there. But there were no more men and no more women, no more backs and no more necks. So the hunter asked the animals. Those he'd eaten, he asked their bones. He asked dead mothers and asked dead sons. Asked the ones hidden in the stones, in crawl spaces and burrows, in the dark holes of the trees, in their leaves and in the water. And he showed them his bow, and his eyes flashed. And they alone knew, all of them knew, they knew they had always been separate. They had always had gaps. They had always been gaps, had always had spaces where hearts could have been, because God made them first, but had not made them best. He kept them in shadows and forests and fields, had let them be hunted, always afraid of being killed, afraid of being eaten, while they themselves killed and ate each other. God had let it happen, had made it happen, and it kept happening every day, and would keep happening forever. Yes, they knew. The animals knew everything, and in all their thousands, they bared their teeth, and they bowed their heads. Every plant, every animal added weight, added height, and all the while they laughed secret laughs. All taking place, all now apart, all act the part, all as one, all without selves, lost in the whole, that massive stare. Now tall enough, he shouted, raised above the clouds to where the air grew thin, to where the light blinked out, up higher than this, to the highest point revealed by any time, the highest of all. And that man placed his foot square onto the smalls of their backs, square onto the napes of their necks, square onto the eyes and to their mouths. He took their stares two at a time. He ran. He was not tired. He was happy. So happy. This was it. This was it. And at the very top, where he was alone, but not alone, he pulled back his string and he tightened his bow and said nothing at all, just breathed and held it a moment and then let everything go. No troubles, no fears, no people, no forests, no animals, no earth, no space, no souls, no nothing, no anything. And there were arrowheads, arrowheads, arrowheads everywhere. And one, only one, stuck fast into the throat of God. And God fell, limp and dead, straight into the earth, with every bone broken. And that arrow was driven straight out of the back of God's neck by this solid earth, and silhouetted against the sunlight, like the only tree standing in a burned-out wood, like a hunted animal, dead on the ground. God bled out slow until his heart stopped, like a stuck pig, like a dog on a spit. And the hand that steered the ship, the plow that broke the plains, broke into 1,000 jagged pieces. And it took only minutes for those people to come down, and without a thought, they began eating. With their bare hands they ripped apart anything they could find, and ate until they were too full to move. We are at that desperate banquet right now. If you listen, you can hear them chewing. It is said that after he was burned, Antiochus' ashes were scattered by the sudden and powerful wind, covering the entire assembly, burning their eyes and filling their mouths. That so much ash could come from a single body is considered to be the last Antiochian miracle, and is of great significance.